Hello, welcome to Ask the Workplace Therapist with Kate and Rowena, where we answer a question about a workplace issue submitted anonymously. Rowena, I believe we have a
All
question.
right. Yes, Kate, we do. So the question today is, I work in a job that I love. I work long hours and the workload is relentless. And I have good self-care and I try to manage my mental and emotional health. And of course, there's the but. But I always feel like I'm on the verge of burnout. Have you got any ideas?
Hmm. Well, my initial thoughts are, have you communicated that the workload is unsustainable? And things like, I'm at capacity. I'm not going to achieve this. I'm going to achieve that, that sort of thing. Tried to set boundaries for yourself in terms of workload. Is what's going on for you, and is your tendency towards burnout a pattern? Is there something about the way that you push yourself, drive yourself, that's going on internally that you can look at? Um, you say your self-care is really good. Um, Sometimes, do you know, this what comes up for me is just sometimes a role is unsustainable, and sometimes the best decision is to leave. If you've pushed back, if you look after yourself well, if you know that you have realistic expectations on yourself. But if it's a job you love, it's difficult, isn't it, Rowena? What do you think?
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. I think those are good points. And it really is a case of balance because depending on who you're talking to, sometimes you might have a situation where people are just changing jobs too many times, and that's also not good. I think it's also a little bit about making sure you're managing expectations and doing that at the right time. So, when at the start of a project, you get given a certain volume of work, and if at that point, especially if you've been working for a certain amount of time, you'd have a certain level of experience that you can count on to go, oh, this is a bit much. I don't think that we can achieve all of this within this time frame, or that I can take on all of this at that time within this time frame. And it's really about balancing the need to be enthusiastic about what we're about to get into, because everyone else may be very enthusiastic, but you're immediately beginning to see, certain warning bells. So either, find a space and time to have a chat. And it could just be a kind of big conversation, not going into any level of detail, but just sort of sounding out, I think could be good. Or just joining in the enthusiasm with everyone else, but knowing to keep track of this. And so if in a week or two after it's still not feeling like it's getting better, just beginning to have that conversation a lot earlier rather than letting it pile up. Because I think the problem is if you just keep letting it pile up, it just builds up inside. And then it becomes this problem that's too big. It's too far gone. Too much has happened. I've been quiet all this while. How can I say anything now? Like, is it too late?
It's never too late. It is never, ever too late.
It's never
I
too late.
think that's the thing, because
Yeah.
we workplaces, we say yes to everything because we want people to see that we're competent. We want people to like us, and people love people who say, yeah, sure, I'll take that on. Yeah, sure, I'll take that on. We get that initial
Yeah.
woohoo, everyone thinks I'm great. So, but then we dig a hole for ourselves, and our
Absolutely.
capacity and our capability can become our worst enemy, So I don't think it's ever
Mm.
too late to try and reset and to shift. But if you have done everything within your control and communicated that, and adjustments aren't being made, then I think it's time to look at what is it that I love about this role? What does it satisfy in me? What are the core values that are driving me, and use that, what works for me in this environment, what doesn't work for me in this environment, and use all of that information, all the stuff you've learned from the role. If you decide this role is at the cost of my own well-being, use all that information to then, make a considered next move, I reckon.
Yeah. And
Mm.
are there particular time frames that we should be looking at? when we're doing this? Like, what's a good time or a bad time?
I, I don't know. For me, it's not a time frame issue. It's an internal sense, when, enough is enough. I don't know. Personally, I don't believe in sticking out a job for your CV's sake so that you've got, a certain number of years
Mm,
but
that's
but
true.
but it depends on your appetite for change. That can bring a lot more stress for some people. We're also unique, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've made a very good point there about, that's not your style. But I have heard from people who will stay in the job far longer than they care to because of,
Heaps.
various circumstances that they may be facing, and they just may feel compelled, financial or otherwise.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. And I think when we're
what if you're not
snowed
getting,
under, when we're snowed under, when we're burnt,
yeah,
when we are in an overwhelming state, it's very hard to remember that we do have choices.
yes,
It feels like we're stuck. It feels like, or even, that the workplace will fall apart if we leave, or, all of that stuff that
yeah,
comes as part of overwhelm and burnout. Um,
yeah.
mm,
I think that is a great point to end this with, because I think at the end of